Okay, thank you, Andreas. Just a quick sharing. So in our group, in the biodiversity degradations, we have a very interesting discussions that basically everyone is concerned about the biodiversity degradations that happens in Mauritius. And I think everybody agrees as well that education's awareness raising are the key. So if it's about educating the local populations, then the best point to start is the schools with the young generations. And if it's about awareness, then basically the private sector, store operators would be keen on working together with the governments, with MTA, MTPA, Ministry of Tourism or Environment, probably, to see how we can educate or bring this awareness to a wider populations in Mauritius to reduce the biodiversity damage. Thank you, Andreas.
Shall we continue in a row now with Darren about waste management pollution? Darren? He's not with us yet.
Yes, I'm unmute now. Thanks, Andreas. So we had a very interesting discussion about the waste and the pollution that are caused mainly in the hotels. Just a kind of figure, one hotel on average, they produce around 170 tons of waste annually, so which is a very big amount. And most of these waste, they generally go to the main landfill. So a few comments from our participants. So they found that instead of having buffet, we could be having food which is prepared à la minute, and all the food that is being remain that the guests have not consumed, maybe they can display it for sales for the staff, or on the second hand, they can also prepare the food to be sent to NGOs and to support the communities. They also found that in terms of the tour operators themselves on their side, try to see whatever they're using in terms of plastics that they can reduce. And they found that also in terms of water bottles that they use, there are alternatives nowadays that could be refilled quite easily. And we can really go onto a no single plastic destination quite soon. So we all are informed that there is already some legislations in Mauritius where there's a phasing out gradually about the single-use plastic, but we need to be really fast on achieving our targets. Right. And then we spoke about the general waste, the general pollution, which is not only about the hotels or the tourism industry, but it is all about the mindset of the population in Mauritius itself, where we need more sensitization, where we can really rely on the population to keep our destination clean and also sanitize in terms of sanitary protocols that we have so far. So this is a little bit, and we need also to gather more information about all the stakeholders, whatever they are doing so far, to compile everything and to share with the whole of the industry so that the best practices are being looked into. And there is a kind of uniformity of all our operators in the best practices that they apply. Thanks. That is from our group.
Thanks so much, Darren. Luis, can I hand over to you, biodiversity?
Sure. Yeah, one of the main topics that we discussed was that there is, first of all, a need to understand the importance of biodiversity as a challenge. It's clear that there is a need to support local organizations in Mauritius in the tourism sector to understand how, for example, coral reefs are important for the local economy and for the resilience of the island. And based on that, it could be possible to identify specific issues in each case for each organization. So we discussed that that once we have this education and communication is a key factor that we need for the biodiversity topic to really try to use this as a weapon, as a strategy to embed, let's say, the protection of local ecosystems. And they mentioned also, we mentioned that there is a need to have, let's say, from this project, a set of actions and tools and guidelines on how to tackle these points. And And I mentioned that this we have already developed in SIM project, and these are the how-to guidelines and improvement guidelines that we will talk about in more detail in the upcoming workshop sessions, Andreas. So we will go deeper into this and trying to help all the organizations, both hotels and tour operators, on how can they implement practical actions to tackle these challenges.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Luis. Joshua, what about community development?
Yeah, this was also a very interesting discussion that we had. One thing that is already very clear with the hotels that we had is that they're already involved in a number of initiatives geared towards the community. Some examples that were raised were, like something to do with the food waste, where hotels actually take the food that is left, instead of really throwing it away, then it's actually given to the communities. I think through different channels that are already established, and that there are already a number of hotels which are doing this, which I think is a nice way of also really engaging and involving the community in the hotels. Somebody spoke about, something like bicycle tour will be something interesting to now think about maybe in future. So more or less thinking of creating products or experiences that really allow the guests or the tour, the guests in the hotels to really have that authentic experience within the local communities. And this is something that the hotels really need to think further about. And one point that I also got that was very interesting was really that it will be interesting for the hotels to think more in terms of inclusive business models as opposed to exclusive. So more or less not keep all the profit to themselves, but really create avenues that they can also allow local communities to also tap in from the revenues that they're getting from this, from the guests, from the tourists. So one way will be, they mentioned here, for example, you create space for local handicrafts to come and really showcase their pieces, sell it, and then more or less keep the money, so you don't have to share the money with them. So such kind of things. But in terms of the pro handprint innovation, one thing that came out that I think Luis has already rightly mentioned was there's already a lot, I would say more or less a lot of the handprint, the positive things that the hotels are doing, but it will be interesting for them to really measure their impact in terms of really their impact in the society and see, is it enough? Can they do more? And I think this is one thing that they're keen on really getting this from the project moving on. So these are some of the key things that were mentioned from the group on community development. Thank you.
Thanks, Joshua. Perfect. Some comments on the group of energy and consumption. We first dived into the history of sustainability. I like that, interestingly, going back to 72, 92, and that there is a need of rebranding sustainability, that some people in the group like the way we saw sustainability as an innovation ingredient, and really we even shaped a new slogan for the future. And I think it was Garvin saying that more with less. And I think that's exactly what this project is talking about, more quality with less resources. So I like that very much. The group was stressing a lot the human capital, like really how we can actually involve as many as possible into that energy efficiency. Someone talked about EarthCheck as a sustainability label involving energy efficiency measures. And talking about handprint, one idea that came up or that was discussed was why not using or seeing a hotel as a school for training energy efficiency for employees, for residents, and for guests. So that's a very visionary way of looking at it. So that was a basic elements. We dived into many other aspects like solar panels and all these aspects. But these were the basic elements of the group, and was a very interesting discussion of forefront thinkers, I have to say. Good, thanks so much. Kartika, you raised your hand, so you have the word.
Yes, thank you. I would just like to highlight what Luis and you, Andreas, just said about energy consumption, resource efficiency, that our Sustainable Island Mauritius project, our project has develop these how-to flyers or improvement guidelines, very practical, very easy. So if you have the concerns, then we are going to introduce you to these guidelines in the next workshops. So make sure that you will be there and you will see how it can help you. Thank you.
Great, Kartika. Thanks so much for that. We will dive into that for sure in the next session. So this was the most theoretical session we have to say to you. So the next will be very down to earth practical about the tools. So fantastic. We are through with the topic. I think we are now entering the Q&A session.